court.
So we'll be arguing that is a flight risk, and we're arguing that the incidents or the commission of all these offences induced a sense of outrage within the community. And we know the ripple effects of what happened throughout the country.
Is the NPA alleging that Mr. Mchunu had been part of instigating the insurrection in terms of the attacks on key infrastructure and warehouses? And are you able to give us details about the private jet he left with?
We will not be giving those details at the moment because that's part of an investigation, because it has a bearing on our decision to oppose bail. On the issue of insurrection, I don't want to comment on that one. We are confining ourselves with evidence that points to the commission of an offence of incitement to commit public violence.
Were you aware of Mr. Mchunu working with other people in his plans to allegedly incite violence?
That is part of an investigative process that I don't want to compromise on.
All right, thank you so much. That's Advocate Ngizwe.
All right, we also understand that, so far 6 alleged instigators have been arrested. Do we know if there's any more arrests made at this stage?
There are investigations that are at an advanced stage in respect of a number of instigators, but for now, according to law enforcement, they have arrested about 6, but those that have appeared in court, there are about 4 of them, including Mr. Mchunu.
Mr. Mchunu from Newsroom Africa, the state says it wants to gather more information. What is it exactly that is missing in this case?
What is missing is information that will help us in our opposition of bail. There are information that is pointing to him being a flight risk, and that information is needed for us to make a determination to what extent are we going to oppose bail against him.
It's Govan again. To which extent, or are you able to say if Mr. Mchunu is being accused of masterminding the instability that we saw in Gauteng and KZN?
Evidence that we have relates to utterances that he made during the public press conference that he held. In terms of masterminding it, I'm not able to comment at that stage because there's a wide range of investigations that are conducted which might lead to more charges being added on him.
Again from Newsroom Africa, his legal team is arguing that there is a misinterpretation of a word that is now being made to as though he was inciting violence. Your reaction to that?
We have assessed the video that was recorded during the press conference. We have had a translator of Zulu, and we are convinced that the words that he used amount to the commission of an offence of incitement to commit public violence.
Just perhaps finally, can you at least clarify what is the charge at this stage?
At the moment, evidence that we've collated is sufficient to prove, when the prosecution proceeds, an offence of incitement to commit public violence. That is the only charge that he's facing. But we are analysing the evidence, we are analysing the video recordings, and we are conducting further investigations with a possibility of adding other charges.
All right, thank you.
Thank you so much. That is the national spokesperson. We will do it. We're still live. We will do it just after this. Simpiwe, obviously, Mr. Mhaka, from the NPA, detailing that Mr. Ngizwe Mchunu is facing a charge of incitement to commit public violence after some of the video recordings have been circulating on social media prior or even after the incarceration of former President Jacob Zuma. And I can tell you that it was quite tough for the defense in court because they actually were pushing for the arguments to be heard in terms of bail application, saying that, it's just Schedule 1 offense, and why would he actually still be incarcerated or kept in police custody while this is just a Schedule 1 offense? And on the other side, the defense saying that they feel that they are actually being given a textbook argument by the state simply because they are now expected to actually make further investigations, and we're just going to actually hear some of the family members who are here as to what they have to say.
I am here to speak on behalf of Ngizwe Mchunu's family. The family, of course, it is very saddened about how the court has handled the matter today. The family, of course, it is very dumbfounded, because those who were inside the court, I'm sure they were able to see that this was a Schedule 1 offense, and under normal circumstances or under ordinary situation, when it is Schedule 1 offense, bail becomes something which becomes automatic. But today, we're not able to see that. Instead, the case was postponed for the 28th. So on behalf of the family, as I've been chosen by the family to come and declare that we are very dumbfounded about how the court has dealt with the matter. And if the court will continue to deal with this matter, we're very worried whether justice is going to be served.
The reluctance to grant him bail was based on the state saying he's a flight risk because they have evidence that he left Gauteng with the private jet to Durban after realizing the police were looking for him. Do you know about this private jet? Whose jet was it? Can you confirm that it happened?
I cannot confirm on the private jet, but what I can tell you now is that if I leave with a private jet and I also come back because I see on the news that I'm looked by the cops, I come back and I go submit myself. How do you say now I'm a flight risk? Any sane person can tell you now, if the police say they are looking for you and you go, you submit yourself, how am I be the very first person to run away from the case? So it doesn't make any sense.
He didn't just submit himself. He had posted a number of times that he is evading the arrest and he was scared of being arrested by the police.
We know Ngizwe Mchunu, he has never been scared. We know Ngizwe Mchunu, he has never, it's us who are close to him. I can tell you now, he's an innocent man. And just to make these things clear, it is very wrong of government when people are looting the malls, when people are looting the streets, and he wants to blame few individuals. Anyone who lives in South Africa will tell you now that people looted the malls because in South Africa this government is presiding over hungry people. That is the reason why people looted. The arrest of Jacob Zuma, when former President Zuma was arrested, his arrest gave platform for people to go and loot. Now you come, you charge a single individual. That damage which was created in the country, you say it is out of Ngizwe Mchunu. It's very unfair. It is very political what is happening to him, and it is very dumbfounding. And if such thing can happen in the country where democracy is supposed to prevail, we are very worried.
Do you believe that
it's the last
his
question,
video...
I want to take the last question so that we can depart. Okay.
Do you believe that his videos incited violence, and if not, what were they calling for?
There was no incitement. Go look for those videos where he was doing live. There was nothing. Ngizwe Mchunu has never been inciting violence. In fact, when violence broke out, he was the one who was amongst people who called out and said, people must stop the violence. There are videos there, you'll find him when he's actually condemning people who are engaged in violence. So we can tell you now, what is happening, it is a political prosecution. It is government who is trying to find your scapegoat. And the only thing that he has ever called for was for Zuma's release. And if everyone who have called for Zuma's release, it must be arrested, it means half of this country must be sent to prison.
Just the last one. Just the last one.
Yours that have also been questioned. Will you be handing yourself over to
just the last one? What is your interpretation of the word Ayikale?
Thank you very much.
What about yourself, Mr. Kanyile?
All right. Simpiwe, one of the family members saying that they feel that Mr. Mchunu is innocent. And I can actually tell you that when we were in court, we had magistrate saying that based on the possible additional charges, he might be a flight risk, and why would he be released on bail today? In fact, she even said to the defense that it might be irresponsible of her to release Mr. Mchunu on bail while there's still further investigations which might actually add more charges on this charge of the incitement of public violence. But I can tell you that it was quite tough, because I was even sitting in front of Mr. Mchunu's wife, in which after he was told that you would then be remanded in custody until your appearance for the formal bail application on the 28th of July. And I actually heard her cry. And she was sobbing, breaking down in court. Perhaps she was expecting that he would be released on bail based on the fact that the defense, Mr. Mchunu's lawyers, kept on insisting to say we cannot postpone this based on a Schedule 1 offense.
Now, Makaketla, we've heard him say that he's a homeboy of former President Jacob Zuma. Well, that's his exact words. Having said that, we know how popular he is, judging from the kind of feedback that we've been getting on social media, that he really is a popular gentleman. So, have you seen any supporters of former President Jacob Zuma, perhaps around the court premises?
No, not as yet. We haven't seen any supporters outside court, and I can tell you that it's only the family members that you saw speaking right now who also say that, they feel that these are just trumped up charges against Mr. Mchunu. And the other thing, Simpiwe, being that one of the words that have been used by Mr. Mchunu on social media platforms is that Zulu word ayikale. According to the magistrate, that might have different interpretations from his followers. Ayikale might actually be one word to incite violence, which is why from the state's prosecutor, he said that why would he actually say those kind of things and then suddenly violence erupts in Soweto? You saw that stampede at Ndofaya Mall, just next to Midlands police station last week, where about 11 people died during that looting spree. So the state feels that this is a strong case and they are going to actually oppose bail when we return here on the 28th of July.
Now, Makaketla, it's quite interesting that Mchunu's relative or family member, the one who just spoke to a short while ago, said that Mchunu did not actually utter the words that are perceived to be inciting violence, but he was simply calling for the emancipation or freeing Jacob Zuma. And he says that the charges are trumped up charges and it is a serial travesty of justice. And but just gathering, or rather, judging on the kind of evidence that the NPA says it has, one then wonders what sort of charges, what sort of evidence that those charges were based on.
I think they are going to actually depend more on those video recordings. I mean, he has got a big following on social media in Piwe. So those video recordings that have been circulating throughout the media with that word ayikale will then have to be used in this court as part of the state's evidence in the opposition of this bail application. Certainly, I think we are actually anticipating more evidence in as far as these charges will be added, as we heard from the state's prosecutor that they want him to actually be kept in custody at the Johannesburg Central Police Station amid these investigations, which might actually lend him to more charges onto this particular charge of the incitement of, incitement to commit public violence. They feel that he is also a flight risk, and that's why they feel that at this stage it will be actually irresponsible for the court to release him on bail. And that's what the magistrate also emphasized, to say that, to hear that he was able to actually fly from Gauteng to KZN on a private jet, that actually goes to prove that he is a flight risk.
Right, Makaketla, we'll leave it there for now. Thank you so much for your update. We do appreciate your time. Our reporter there, Makaketla Mutlabe, speaking to us live outside the Randburg Magistrates Court, wherein Ngizwe Mchunu, a former radio presenter, his bail application has been moved to the 28th of July. And we've seen earlier on the NPA spokesperson, Vuyomhaga, saying that they're still analyzing the evidence and more charges might be added, to him. But the charge that he's been charged with is incitement of violence. Now,